And the countdown's done, just like that. So welcome, everybody, to Triple S Live on Christmas Eve. I'm Ash, that's Moontag there. Obsidian's in the ether, as always. And, yeah, we're glad you could be with us today. So, hope everyone's having a great holiday. Tell us what your holiday traditions are and what you're planning to be doing over Christmas or whatever you celebrate this time of year. We're going to vote in the Steam Awards today. Talk about, I guess, the past year and also what's going on. Saib had an article about the games, all of the upcoming games in the first part of 2023. So that should be interesting to take a look at. And yeah, I think that about covers it. So, how's your Christmas preparations going, Moon?
I have to still get a bunch of wrapping and like stuff to divide all the presents I got, because right now they're just sitting in one big box.
Me too.
Yep. It's like it's just too cold to go outside.
Oh yeah, no kidding. It's
So,
like
heck.
it's been insane, right? Just past several days. My kids were home for 3 days.
Right.
Because well, when they cancel the buses, we just don't bother sending them to school just because they can't teach anything new anyway, so they might as well stay home, have a day off.
Right.
They wanted to go today though, because this is the day they're doing all their Christmas parties and stuff.
Not running?
Because it's like a minus 30 trillion outside.
Yeah.
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 Minus
It's
40.
That's what we were just talking about. Were you not paying attention? Hello. Hello,
no,
Kiski.
I thought I didn't know if we had mentioned that it's literally minus 40 outside.
Yes.
And if you're asking, hey, is that in Celsius or Fahrenheit? Being that you're so analytical and information like that's so important, it doesn't matter because it's the same thing.
I swear you've told that joke every single year.
I do. It's the best joke every year because it's something that everybody always forgets. And it doesn't matter how many times you tell them, tell somebody this, is like, oh, minus 40 is the same thing. They never, like, it doesn't like hit home until they're like, oh, it's that cold outside.
Right.
Yeah, it joins up at minus 40, but then below that it starts to deviate again, right? So they just happen to match up right at that mark, Celsius and Fahrenheit.
Yeah, because a degree in Fahrenheit is not the same increment as a degree in Celsius.
No, but I was talking to my American friend yesterday, and I did the conversion to Fahrenheit. I was like, I didn't realize Fahrenheit could go that far into the negative for like normal temperatures that humans can survive at. But
Survive at.
yeah. Anyway, also, so yeah, those of you watching live, as people are trickling in here, we're just kind of shooting the snow. We'll say that. Tell us what you want to talk about today. Let us know what stories are on your mind. I will go through the content requests channel on our Discord. But we also have, like I said earlier, we have a few planned things to... oh, dang it. I forgot to turn my furnace off.
The furnace wants to join in too. It can feel how cold it is. I had to.
Is the furnace that loud? I've never heard it on this
I've never really heard it on
it.
this.
Yeah, well, Discord cancels it out, but it'll absolutely go through the stream because I am, the stream is.
I do hear our furnace sometimes, but I don't hear it through on the stream.
Also, everybody just got to see the one and only ass shot I'll ever put on the channel. It's because of where the Switch is over there with my Mario Brothers pajama pants.
Woo!
These are my favorite thing.
Nerd.
So comfortable. All right. This has been a ridiculous start to the stream. All right. So why don't we let's look at Steam Awards first. Might as well, unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about right off the bat.
Sure, let's do it.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some big stories. The D&D one it's a pretty big one. It's pretty important, especially considering the newest, the latest and last patch from hell for Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate is going into final polish.
Yeah.
So they won't, if they put out anything new now, that new thing, like going forward from this last patch, if they put out any new content, that's the new content that's going to be in the game. The every current system in the game, every current thing in the game basically has the ability to be morphed, tweaked, altered, new version of it put in, all that kind of stuff. And I don't think they want to potentially ruin the surprise of some of the things that they're putting in, because there is still a large amount of requests for things like, hey, we would like a improved crafting system. We want a maybe more tweaks to the reaction system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like all of these things are good things because this is what the community has been asking for, and they've been really good on keeping everybody up to date, tweaking those things out, making them important, making them work, making them be what most everybody wants them to be, and that's really good. Like I can't stress enough how good it has been watching. I literally was playing it right before we started the stream, and I have found new areas, not specifically new areas, but areas that I did not find in the previous game. Things where I had explored before and there was nothing there, but now there's like the area is larger. It's been like opened up a little bit more, and then there's new stuff there.
Right.
So that was surprising, and the whole reaction system feels way better. Everything feels really good, and I encourage anybody who's wondering, or they're maybe they're still on the fence about whether or not this game is going to be good, to reassure you, no, this game is going to be absolutely rock solid. We have so much to look forward to from where they're going, and I honestly think that this is going to be one of the best games to do everything D&D with that you could ever imagine.
Yes.
That said, there's certainly some other more disturbing news in the D&D universe pertaining to microtransactions.
Yeah, well, and we're talking about that now. So
yeah,
put off the Steam Awards for a minute.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this is the most important news. It's probably the thing that we should probably lead with as far as like the thumbnail and whatnot. But well, just in the
you want a thumbnail? You want a thumbnail
Yeah.
that has to do with what we're talking about? What are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? Sorry, just kidding. Go ahead.
I mean, this is the thing that we're going to be clipping out and putting into shorts and stuff. So, anyways, so there's a new person in charge of D&D ish,
Or Wizards of the
I don't know how to
Coast.
explain it. This is somebody from all those really bad decisions that Microsoft was making a little while ago, that everybody was just absolutely dunking on them for, going, how could you be so stupid? Are you really this dumb? Are you really honestly
Like we're talking about the Xbox One era?
No, we're just talking about Microsoft in general.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So just Microsoft in general, a whole bunch of just horrendous decisions had been made, stemming from everything from Windows to the Xbox to everything. Like they were just like, wow, you can't do this anymore. You know that one thing that you could always count on Windows to do? Well, it doesn't do that anymore. Hey, you have to upgrade. You have to do all this. A lot of those decisions root from not just a single person, but a culture of like, and we've talked about this so much before. I keep messing up his name, from the guy who's currently heading Apple to the guy who used to who created Apple. Who's the guy who created Apple?
You mean Steve Jobs?
Yeah,
Allegedly.
So Steve Jobs pointed this out, and I apologize, keep forgetting his name, but I keep confusing his name with like the current Tim Cook who's in there right now.
Right.
And I know that Tim Cook is not the guy that I'm trying to think of, and Jobs is such a anyways. Steve Jobs pointed this out, that when you have salespeople, marketing people, and money people get to the head of your company is doomed to die, because you stop innovating, you stop creating things that are new, creating things that are better, and you focus on how to make the most bang for your buck, because that's what money people do. Money people figure out, okay, hey, we made $20 billion last year doing this. If we put everybody into camps and force feed them our products and turn them into slaves, we could make like $100 billion. That's amazing. That's such a great idea, right?
Wow.
And everybody else is just standing there looking at them like they're psychopaths, which they are.
Yeah.
Going, no, you don't want to do that. What is wrong with you? But think about the money we could make. It's like, yeah, and the huge amount of problems with, like, no, just no, stop. And so those people, it's not just a single individual. It's a group of people who that's their job, is to find out how to squeeze as much money from a system as humanly possible. And a smart company never, ever, ever puts these people in charge unless you're like facing bankruptcy, which is probably like how you got there was probably a lot worse. Like there was a lot of problems that led you to that point. Anyways, long story short, one of these people from Microsoft that was, again, part of a team that made a lot of these decisions is now heading essentially D&D.
Like
and is now going,
the actual guy?
Hey, yeah. It's actually a woman.
Or woman, okay.
And she's going, hey, you know what? We are criminally under monetizing D&D. Well, if you're a psychopath, yes, that's true. But if you're not a psychopath, then no, that's not true. Because do you know how much it costs for me to run out, buy a whole bunch of books, buy everything that's currently current in 5e? Well, you use 5. I know there's a new thing that's coming out for D&D, but let's just stick with 5e. I'm gonna go out and get all the 5e stuff, then all of the Tasha's Cauldron to everything and all that bonus stuff, and then I want to set up a game to run with me and 8 friends. We're gonna have 8 friends. Not all of them are gonna be there all the time, so we're gonna have like kind of a split campaign. So I'm gonna get 50 miniatures, and then I'm gonna get a whole bunch of other stuff. Some maps, some mapping grids, some houses, some stuff that I could do a real, honest to God, deep, really cool campaign. That's gonna cost me like $1,000 at least. So is it under monetized? Yeah, for extremely rich people who have an enormous amount of disposable income, sure. To them, it might be criminally under monetized, but for the average person who's got $60 for spending money for the whole month, are you insane? You will drive so many people away from this and into the arms of many other products that are functionally identical. And or just encourage people to use more homebrew stuff, or encourage more other companies to come in and say, hey, we're going to be doing all these miniatures and all these books and all these stories stuff that you could, if you wanted, use them exactly in a D&D scenario, but this has nothing to do with D&D. We're just creating an environment, a world, and a story that's functionally identical, that you can you can take all your favorite classes, all your favorite core concepts in normal D&D,
resemble but are legally distinct from the Lollipop Guild. That Futurama thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And translate them over into something else. And again, you would only allow this to happen if you were a complete and total moron. And you had no ability, like you assume that you had this thing called a monopoly on everything that had to do with this. I swear this is going to kill Wizards of the Coast and D&D in probably the most spectacular way that we've ever seen a company, get on stage and commit suicide since the last time the Microsoft did this, when they got on stage and repeatedly stabbed themselves in the stomach, saying it's for your own good, it's for your own good, it's for your own good.
Now, tell me something, because the article I've got up on the screen right now says, and this is from Morris's unofficial tabletop RPG news. Okay, I have no idea of the reliability of this source, but it seems to be pretty clear here. So the new royalties for third-party publishers who make more than $750K a year. Do you think that's going to affect much of the user base? I mean, or is it like the general direction they're going that you're not happy with, that this is the first step in a bad direction? Like, what do you think's happening down the road? Because that's not going to affect your average user, unless there's other information out here that is missing from this article that I'm not aware of. But like, it's not going to affect your average D&D player. It doesn't sound like.
No, but this isn't like, this is just the beginning, because that's how microtransactions work. This is just the beginning.
Sure.
The way that they've set up the new D&D system, where it's far more easy. Well, it's sort of easier to use online, like in an app format. They're working on an app. They're working on this other stuff. It's not good by any stretch of the imagination. It's not even as good as many other like homebrew, like freeware systems that are made for apps and stuff like that. So yeah, this particular thing that you're talking about is not going to affect every single individual user, but is most certainly going to affect a lot of the actual player base, because you might have a small company that's working on a whole bunch of stuff, and they kind of like run off of this, and eventually they're going to show up knocking on their door and say, hey, give us a whole bunch of money. And they're going to go, well, I have costs, I have business associated costs. If you start asking for a big piece of this, I'm not going to be able to grow. I'm not going to be able to expand. And that's going to be that. I'm going to be forced to stop doing this and move off to a different product. And they're going to be like, all right, well, I guess you can move off to a different product then, but you're going to lose out on our cool universe here, and I guess that's your fault then. So yeah. So that's kind of where, like, that's how that's going to grow basically. Now, yes,
right.
Is there more that they could be doing? Is there something else that they could be doing to kind of cut that away and stem that? It's like, like to kind of like fit into that, like is some of these like D&D related stuff, are they going away? And the answer to that is probably no, not right away, but it's a squeeze that starts. And we have great shows like the I want to make sure that I'm getting this right here. It's the guys from I believe it's New Zealand, Deerstalker. They do a series that's set in the D&D universe. They actually, like, the character, like the people in the show are actually playing tabletop, and then what happens in the tabletop experience, they act it out in a live action format. It's really great. I love those guys. And they've been officially licensed now by, I believe, both D&D, and then they're also getting actual filming credit and money from the New Zealand government, because they've realized, hey, look, these people online doing this small little production team has managed to pull in more views than our entire state media. So it's like, oh, maybe we should start including them. And to their credit, they did, and it's looking actually decently good, right? Like, so
yeah.
So there's there people like them, they're gonna find a way to make this work. But all in all, this is like, instead of doing things that made things better and gave people more service, they're piloting the ship into the side of a mountain, from my perspective.
Right.
Because, like, what could they be doing? Well, we talked about miniatures, right? And it's like, there are some official D&D miniatures, but I can't hop onto a program and customize an amazing character and then have it 3D printed at a local library, because a lot of local libraries have 3D printers now. It's actually a brilliant move that a lot of governments said, hey, this is actually a really smart thing to do. One of the best governmental decisions was to have public libraries have publicly available 3D printers, and you just queue up a request to print stuff. It's like that is something that they could have done. They could have created this awesome little thing, and then they could have like monetized that in a very small way, to help people to create hundreds of their own miniatures.
Well, yeah. You have the design tool available for free. You want to download
and Heroes Forge, which is a tool that does exactly what I've just described, is a very successful company that I myself have personally used to create a character from my book series, and I plan on using it again to create more characters, because it's got a super flexible system, and it grows every month. Every month they add a whole bunch of new options, and you can do everything from like a cyberpunk sci-fi thing to a medieval non-fantasy thing to a fantasy, high fantasy magic swords and sorcery thing. And it's like, again, you're sitting there going, why doesn't D&D do the same thing and then just market that out? You can get these things printed in plastic, high grade plastic, colored plastic, just gray or whatever, like base color plastic. You can also have them cast in bronze.
You're starting to sound like they're paying you for this plug here.
They should.
They probably should.
But that's the thing. Again, is like, why isn't D&D doing this? Why isn't Wizards of the Coast putting a tool like this together? Why don't they have a system where you can create an infinite number of combinations for a bunch of characters, and then put that out there and just say, hey guys, here's the tools to make this better. Here's a tool to like integrate this more.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Kisuke uses Hero Forge, and again, it's like they could be doing this instead of piling their head into a wall, but I guess piling their head into a wall was just an easier thing to do from a money maker's like money guy.
Well, it's a lot easier to just, it's a lot easier to just charge people who are doing the work for you rather than do the work yourself. But I mean, devil's advocate here. Could this be looked at as just a licensing fee? I mean, or do they already charge a licensing fee for these licensed products? And they're adding this royalty on top of it.
They're adding this royalty on top of it. Again, as far as I understand.
Well, and here's the thing. They say that they're adding a royalty for it claims here, for the fewer than 20 creators worldwide who make more than $750,000 in income in a year. And they're starting to add that royalty in 2024. So I don't know how much these people actually make or what the cost or what the royalty will be, but it doesn't seem like this is going to bring them in all that much money, at least not right off the bat. I mean, potentially. I mean, I have no idea what the percentage is going to be. They don't say here. What do you think the typical royalty on something like this would be?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like a percentage? I have no idea. But let's say it's 10%, which sounds low to me. Sounds very low. 20 creators. Say there's 20 creators that make that average $1 million. So $20 million.
Yeah, it's not
10% of that.
Just for the PR of this. And if just one of those creators ends up having to like quit doing D&D stuff because they just can't afford it, they run the numbers, they show, look, we would like to do this, but we just can't.
Yeah,
and they also don't have to quit.
They don't say here if it's general gross income or if it's just their profits that they make on top of it after expenses. It doesn't say that here either. But yeah, I mean, if you cut a big chunk of somebody's income out, they may just have to stop, or they may just deliberately pull back to under that 750,000 mark so that they can, that might, why, it's like, it's kind of like, sometimes you get a raise that pushes you into the next tax bracket, you wind up taking home less money, which is garbage when that happens. Anyway, all right, yeah, Kisuke agrees. Hero Forge is dope, and Bluntman says he's looking at switching to Linux rather than upgrading to Windows 11. Yeah, my computer, I haven't even had to look at Windows 11 because my computer has, Windows was telling me my computer is not able to be upgraded to Windows 11. But then I found out there's just this one, apparently there's one thing in the background that I can switch on to have it to suddenly it'll be able to upgrade to Windows 11. But I don't think I want to do that. I have a bad history with upgrading Windows, as does Obsidian. Moon, I don't know if you... Yeah. It's just just a nightmare. Because, yeah, you do that upgrade and it screws with everything, and rolling it back is a massive pain in the ass. All right. Remember, to roll a d20, you must watch the mandatory ad. Yes, indeed. It's one way to monetize.
Right. Or watch the ad to even roll.
Yeah, all right. Okay, well, while we're talking about big companies making strange decisions, so the Epic versus Apple story came to a very strange conclusion. Remember, like a year or 2 years ago when we were talking about that almost weekly, Epic versus Apple, and let me just pull up an article here. So, no, I don't want the Wikipedia article. No, that's not a good one either. Saib, do you have a good summary in your head of this?
Of the Epic versus Apple thing? I don't actually.
I watched Bellier's video on it yesterday, but now the details are escaping my brain.
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, to say it simply, it's a mess. The thing that's the most interesting, I would say, is probably that that the financial hit to Epic wasn't that much. I mean, it's a lot in the sense of like it's a lot of money. In the sense of like, is it enough money to bankrupt them? No. Is it more money than they make in a year? No. Is it more money than they make in half a year? No. So, is it really a penalty? Was it just a smart, roll of the dice that just they got, they got kind of crapped out on? Again, it's like, don't know.
Right.
No idea.
But then we had this news coming out recently that Apple is suddenly going to be allowing third-party app stores, and apparently this is spurred on by new legislation in the European Union.
Yeah, the whole thing in this is which is the most funniest thing is that if they had literally just like if Epic had literally just like waited a year or two, they wouldn't have had to deal with this, like because it would have gone their way essentially.
Yeah, because the whole thing about this was that Epic wanted to be able to sell stuff to people from within their own app and bypass the Apple App Store, and now it looks like, well, it's moot now because it's just been broken open by this by this new European legislation. And of course, this stupid website won't let me actually read the article without signing up, and no chance, man.
Of course.
Why would I do that? Why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Okay, nobody quote me on that. Let's see here. Here, gamesindustry.biz. What the heck did you think I was trying to do, Bloomberg? Go away.
Go away, Bloomberg.
Let's just switch to reading mode. There we go. Okay, this is better. Apple's reportedly planning to allow third-party app stores on iOS in its next major software update. According to Bloomberg, the move is being encouraged by the EU's new Digital Markets Act, which seeks to ban large platform holders from gatekeeping software on their devices.
Yeah.
You know, there's this is where it comes down to which do I fear more. Ridiculously overpowered governments or ridiculously overpowered corporations.
They're both terrible.
Yeah.
And
both can lead to very bad outcomes.
They start working together.
Yes. So I guess I've discussed this before, Blunt Man. I cannot, in good conscience, use an ad blocker when the majority of my income comes from ads. Now, you know, if a few hundred of you out there would sign up for our Patreon, just kidding. But no, I can't. It's the way the internet works. And it's how we make money. There's just no way around that. I wish it wasn't the case, but that's just how.
So we also get punished. There are companies that will look down on you for running ad blockers, whilst being a creator on their site.
Yeah. So
if we show that we don't, we cut the ads out of certain YouTube content. If we were to review other people's YouTube content, that would actually end up we would end up getting like a black strike against us that doesn't go away, essentially. And one of many, and I'm not saying that's a good thing because it's not. But yeah, that's just the way things are, unfortunately.
A good point, though. Bluntman says, I'm much more afraid of corporations. The state needs us preferably alive. That's, I suppose.
Corporations
need us alive, too, yeah.
And I would say that in recent human history, the amount of corporations that have butchered, large portions of a population is a tiny fraction of the number of the times that a government has done it to their own people. Not somebody else's people, their own people.
They do tend to do that.
What was it last century? Close to 120 million as a low estimate. Yeah, I fear government far more than I fear corporations, because corporations, there's naturally competitors to it, and when a corporation gets too bad at their own job, they will end up failing so hard that it creates a vacuum, and nature fills that vacuum right away with anything else that it can fit in. Whereas when a government does that, they implode differently, and they end up taking out just an enormous amount of other people.
There gets to a point where
their own,
because you are not going to have a government with unanimous support, and so if you have a dictatorial regime, it eventually gets to the point where there's, I think the amount of dissent will grow as people get tired of you ruling over every aspect of their lives, and then the only way you can squash that is through violence. I think that's inevitable for any dictatorship. We can see that throughout history. We can see that in modern day. But yeah, corporations, though, there's a good point from Bluntman here. Corporations don't care about the long-term health of the consumer. I even, I ordered some stocking stuffers from Amazon, and didn't really realize where they were coming from until just recently, or until they actually got here, and I opened it up, I'm like, Oh, this is from some random Chinese company. Wonder what kind of cancer-causing chemicals are in this that somebody bribed someone to look the other way. Yeah, well, a little cynical, I guess. Yeah, and I mean, I do fear the cyberpunk future. It's largely theoretical at this point, but it's still fairly, you know, I think there's a realistic potential for, the future we see in cyberpunk to become real.
Definitely.
For humanity to just have no more meaning. Everything is, your only value is what you buy, and then what you buy is replacement body parts. Slowly eat away at your own humanity even more. Yeah. So, anyway, what were we talking about? Right. So, Apple. Yeah. So, Epic, the publisher of Fortnite, wanted to get around Apple's 30% cut, and so there was this big court battle about it. It was a gigantic clown show, and then now the EU has stepped in and said users must be allowed to install and use third-party apps as well as be able to sideload software by direct download. So I guess this makes me happy for a couple of reasons. One, we've got the government fighting the corporations, which should, if that keeps up, hopefully it'll keep both sides a little bit at bay.
Yeah.
But
like we hate government interference, but in this case, it's like they're allowing people to, they're forcing the corporations to allow people, and in some way to make it easy for them to install third-party app stores. And I would love to see Steam do a third-party app store, or some other company. Could be a brand new company. I would love that too. I would love to pitch this to somebody too, where it's like, hey, we let on games that do not have any aggressive or manipulative microtransactions. All transactions are straightforward, and there's a natural limit to them. So like, you go into a game. I think I was thinking through this when I was looking at a couple of recent apps. It's like, they want to make an esport out of this game, but you can't have an esport so long as there's a microtransaction store. What's the solution? What's the happy solution? The happy solution is that if you want to have a competitive service, then you could still charge for people to be in that. It's like charging people to play, StarCraft. What does it cost to play StarCraft? Well, you just buy the game. Like, that's it. What's the cost of entry to get into Overwatch? Again, you just buy the game. That's it. And I think that if you want to do an esports with something, the only way you can do it is you can have a server where everybody who's on that server, they just pay a monthly due. That gets them into all the competitions, and they are given a set number, the same static set number of resources to then apply to their game account, essentially.
Right.
And it's like, that's the way that you could do these competitive, what previously were microtransaction heavy things, and maybe you could have a server that has unlimited purchases. I don't know why anybody would play it, but that's the case. Well, I know why people would play it, because people have money, and money is it's like that one. So there's this one guy who plays Diablo Immortal, and he spent I think he's up to like $200,000 in Diablo Immortal now.
That's too much.
He's such an arrogant POS that it makes you physically like I feel like I need to take a shower every time I watch the guy, because he's just so like, hey, I'm better than you because I'm a millionaire and I can blow my money on whatever I want, and it works. It's like, that's the disgusting thing about it, is just that it does work. So yeah, that's kind of like not very fun when you think about it, but that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. So but in order for the regular people to be able to access a game, to have sort of like a fair competitive playing field, you need to have a server that reduces that kind of stuff. So I would love to see Steam, again, new company, whatever, make an app, store app where it's like every game in here we have checked, we have verified. They would they're gonna it's gonna be a contractual thing where they agree that you can't spend infinite amount of money. Every game has a set purchase limit, a top end that you cannot go past. Where if you spend $200 on the game, you just unlock everything automatically. If you spend $150 on a game, you unlock most everything in the game. And to unlock that final level, you're not spending $200; you're just spending $50 more.
Yeah, you know what?
It's like
that's the dream, but no one's going to do that.
Well, I don't know, because again, if you have, like, parents have had a lot of issues with apps with their kids buying ludicrous amounts of money because they don't understand what they're spending is money.
Yeah.
And I think if you came to parents and said, hey, here's an app that has games that cost only this much, it's a set number, there's no microtransactions, and hey, it's also, like, you know, filtered and, like, geared for more, you know, for kids, everything is PG and under. I think a lot of parents would be like, okay, give me your phone. I'm gonna, you know, they go onto the kid's phone, they uninstall the other app, they uninstall, like, the app stores, and they install this one.
But are parents going to
like,
be savvy enough and aware enough of the issue to do that?
Oh, well, I think the newer ones are. Like,
and then
like,
also there's the thing, like, about, like, the store is cutting.
You got to think about
their own cut. Then
you got to think about it. Like, are you talking about your parents or yourself as a parent? Right.
Well, I mean,
like
myself as a parent,
no.
I would be aware, but I'm really immersed in this space, right? There's, I don't know that some of my, you know, some of my really tech savvy friends would be, but some wouldn't, for sure. Some would not be aware of what was actually going on. But the other thing is, though, because assuming the store is taking a cut of the microtransactions, you know, they're also limiting their own income potential, and that's pretty rare for anyone to volunteer to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it wouldn't happen. I mean, Musk did buy Twitter, so anything can happen in this crazy year we live in.
Right.
Yeah. Apple is still apparently considering some mandating certain security requirements. That was going to be my next question: are they going to just have a big disclaimer saying, if you know, yes, you can sideload, you buy through these other stores, but if your phone breaks, we are not responsible. Like, how are they going to work out those liability issues? Like, if your phone's under warranty and something crashes and your hardware overheats or whatever, are they going to be able to prove what caused that, or will they just say, oh, you had sideloaded programs on here, therefore your warranty is void, you know, because we don't know what those might have done to the system. How are they going to work through those kinds of issues?
Well, I think most apps, like, you'd have to be really terrible at technology to do that. Like not just, like, terrible. You'd have to be maliciously bad to, like, allow that stuff through on multiple levels.
No, but
like,
I mean, it's not just stores though. Like, it's like you can just sideload any program that you download off the internet, and
well, you can do that right now.
Yeah,
like, there's nothing preventing you from downloading the APK files for any app ever
on right. But and I know on Google you can just, or on Android you can just unlock that by flipping a switch. But on Apple, I thought, now I don't have an Apple phone, I don't know. I thought on Apple, you know, they really locked that down so you couldn't just run apps that you sideload.
Again, it's like, I'm pretty sure that I mean, sure, there's scammers and, like, you know, malicious people who will do that for the sake of, you know, abusing people, but just generally, like, that's not something like these people making these third-party apps, they're not going to let in anything and everything just cuz. they want to sell stuff. They want to have a decently running product. I deal with a lot of these a lot of these indie developers who make games who are now porting their games to the mobile devices, and each of them utilize this tech all the time, and they know that if they were to screw this up, that they would lose their audience. It's like that's the last thing they want to do.
Yeah, very true.
So they run basic tests to make sure that it doesn't, and then a lot of the publishing tools that they use to actually publish the apps actually run these tests while they're converting the package essentially ready for utilization. So
Also, Bluntman in the chat says, I mean, you could always download third-party software on your computer, as computers somehow cope with this problem with warranty service.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
There's no reason why this can't be done with a phone.
Yeah. So
well, that's true. Yeah, but I mean, it just seems like Apple has always approached it differently than PC. PC.
Yeah, so Apple's
producers.
got a very I don't know. I've always thought of Apple as a bit snooty. It was
well, yeah,
we're so different, and you just have to have Apple all the things.
You absolutely do, and there is an advantage in that if you have all Apple stuff, it works together really nicely.
It does,
but
honestly. I do
you
have some
have
Apple
less
products.
flexibility. You have to use their stuff, and as soon as they've decided your app is obsolete, well, that's too effing bad. You're
right.
You got to upgrade your hardware.
They decide your iOS is obsolete, so it's just we're just not gonna make that run as good as the new stuff.
Yeah.
Ugh.
They do all kinds of
Shady.
of underhanded things. So, Bluntman says, "When I'm stoned, you seem smarter to me." Are you stoned or are you not stoned right now?
Hey Arturo, nice to see you. Merry Christmas.
So, anyway, just to specify the yes, there is no reason why it couldn't be done with a phone, but what the question is, what approach is Apple going to take? Because they've historically been they've always very tightly controlled their ecosystem.
Yep.
All right. So, I was going to read another. Oh, as Bluntman says, Diablo Immortal by itself should be part of the diagnosis, something that the doctor finds in you and prescribes antidepressants and a support group. Yeah, that I agree. You walk in, doctor says, "Let me see your phone," or you go for psychological assessment. They just look through your apps and prescribe drugs based on that. That would work. Polly says, "I'm waiting for the Fallout future. The fusion is getting closer and closer." Yeah, that's very exciting, actually. That is incredibly exciting. The next advancement that, or words are not wording for me very well today. They've gotten a step closer to possible using nuclear fusion as a power source in the future. It's still probably a ways off, but that's pretty exciting. Wouldn't you say, Saib? I'm surprised you're not jumping in here with all kinds of comments on that.
It's fusion tech is one of those things where it's it's really important that we get it to work. If we want to go beyond our solar system, we're going to need something akin to a warp drive. Sorry, not a warp drive.
Well, we'll need something like that if we want faster than light travel.
Well, yes, that. But I mean, it's not. No, wait. They do call it the warp drive. That's the drive that's in the Star Trek ship.
Star Trek is warp drive. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then they have an actual. Yeah. So I thought it was the warp, or I thought it had a different name, but no, it's the same. At any rate, that fusion, they need something, and they're gonna need to have it to a point where it's you can't just have one fusion drive on your ship. You're gonna need 25 of them.
Well, you're talking about interstellar spaceships. I'm thinking just powering our society in a way that doesn't kill our entire planet. you know.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, yes, obviously. It's like, I'm jumping too far ahead. Yeah, you need stuff in order to make it work.
Yeah, we need a clean energy source. So this could solve so many problems.
Like even in the space strategy management game I've been binging lately, Ixion came out. One of the power sources that you get to develop down the line is actually like a hydrogen power generator, where like you collect resources, hydrogen, and you build a generator that will help power your ship. And I'm just like, this is pretty great. I would love this in real life.
Yeah, I found an article here. Researchers have reportedly made a breakthrough in the quest to unlock a near-limitless, safe, clean source of energy. They've got more energy out of a nuclear fusion reaction than they put in. That's what you need, obviously. You need a net gain in energy, or else it's pointless.
Now, again, the question, like my immediate question is like, for how long? And I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like I'm too cynical, but I'm like, they're gonna screw this up somehow. like they're gonna screw this up somehow. Don't know how, but somebody's to screw this up to the point where it's just not gonna function. Something.
Maybe, but I mean, the people that make it happen are going to be the most famous and wealthiest people in the world at this point. So I think there's a lot of incentive there. I think the corporations will come in and screw it up. The corporations and the governments will come in and screw it up. Yeah. The scientists, they'll figure it out because that's what they like doing.
There's a mini nuclear reactor that can be made with garbage fuel right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's the main reason why we don't have this? Why isn't this on why isn't there dozens of these in your community?
Corporations and governments,
and
I'm guessing.
Is governments and people, essentially, and corporations.
This is so many
a big mix of all
so
of
many problems in the world. Are caused not because of poverty's not always a lack of resources, but bureaucracy and governments and the people in charge and greedy corporations and stuff like that. Not I was gonna say not all business people are, but this is all this other junk, right? That gets in the way. Like, there's no reason that every place on the planet can't have clean water right now, in my opinion. So why don't they? The human factor, because people are either incompetent or evil.
Darn humans.
The Russians have made an excellent portable nuclear reactor, mobile and potentially commercial. Interesting. Able to provide energy to the whole area of the city. Well, that's kind of exciting and also scary. I mean, it does.
Well, those have been around for a while. The tech to make mini mobile nuclear reactors, it's been around for like 20 years. But the reason why we don't use them and we don't see them is twofold. It's like, one, they don't want to put nuclear power in the hands of the average Joe. Like, government still has a heart attack when they think about this. Environmental groups have a heart attack when they think about this.
You can think about that.
Think about Homer Simpson.
Think about or Fallout. It's like some dude decides to fix his toaster and the whole city becomes a crater. Bluntman says, as an ecologist, I somewhat disagree with you about water. Well, I'll defer to your expertise. I am not an ecologist. I'd be interested in hearing more about why that's not the case. It seems like we have the technology to clean water. We have the technology and there's, I don't know. Again, not an expert on that.
When I was young, I created a self-containing clean water creation unit that used no power. And
of course you did.
It was
as one does when they're 6 years old and bored.
I wasn't 6. Don't be ridiculous. It was 13. But yeah, I created it, and there were people who had a heart attack when they saw it, because they're like, this will ruin, like, this will ruin so much, like, big corporate stuff. You better not talk about this. And I was like, are you serious?
So why
And they're like, yes.
why didn't you market this? And like, what are we doing on YouTube? Let's make this thing and become bajillionaires.
It's again the idea that people have that, oh no, you have to, you can't do this because it's going to cause, like, problems. It's like, yeah, that's
going to disrupt it disrupts society.
Yeah, it's a disruption to a lot of people who have a lot of interest in said thing.
Yeah, but screw them.
So
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
yeah, no, I agree. Screw them. It's like,
just kidding. If you see any red dots appear on my forehead, just let me know so I can duck. All right. All right. Well, we should, we'll get to the Steam Awards right away here. But by the way, if you haven't already, please slam that like button if you're enjoying this conversation, if you're enjoying being a part of it. We're finding, and other creators are finding, that the likes on a live stream really does help bring people in. So if you want, you know, a low cost, low energy way, it's like nuclear fusion. It's like clean, low cost, maybe not low cost, but, you know, clean, sustainable way to support the channel. Just hit that like button. So, looking through the content requests channel on our Discord server. By the way, join the Discord server if you haven't already. And there is a place there where you can request topics that you want us to talk about. And let's see, there's a couple stories here I wanted to. Since we were talking about Fortnite a millisecond ago. No, I'm combining words I'm reading with words I'm, you know, trying to say, and it's causing problems for my brain right now. There's another report out about Fortnite and Epic. Epic is to pay more than $500 million over FTC allegations of privacy violations and unwanted charges. What the heck are you doing over there, Epic?
Yeah, what the heck?
This report.
This is one of these things where it's a process crime, as far as I understood. They did violate some privacy stuff, but it was like unintentional. To, you know, it was an unintentional byproduct, which, again, it's like, well, that's still very serious and egregious. How many people accidentally do that? Basically everybody. If you have a giant corporation that has customers and you have a database on those customers in any way, shape, or form, you're probably violating at least 3 laws that you don't know about. So it's one of these things that it's a generalized process crime.
Okay, that's an expensive one, though.
Yeah, it's an expensive one, especially when government decides to come after you. Because again, it's like just with all the news that's gone on in the last, like, you know, month, it's like, how many government / corporations are doing nasty, dirty things, and they're doing it in complete violation of their own rules and laws? Turns out most of them. And how many of those people are going to be caught and are going to be forced to, you know, pay a price? Basically none of them. And how many corporations are going to? Only the ones that piss off the people who enforce the laws.
This sounds quite
it's
devious here. As our complaints note, Epic used privacy invasive default settings and deceptive interfaces that tricked Fortnite users, including teenagers and children. Epic put children and teens at risk through its lax privacy practices and cost consumers millions in illegal charges through its use of dark patterns. Dark patterns. That sounds ominous. Is that some financial term I'm not familiar with, or legal thing?
No, I don't trust Epic, but I also don't trust. I do not trust Epic, but I also do not trust the people who enforce these particular laws, because they're always enforced at the most random times. Like, oh, you went up against Apple? We're going to enforce all these rules against you. Apple's big buddies with us. Have we investigated Apple recently? No. Why would we do that? They pay. They're our golfing buddy on the weekend.
Yeah.
I see Tim Cook more than I see my own kids. That's the kind of stuff that makes me like very much suspect this. I wanted to use this in our previous segment, but I'll use it here. There's an old saying that I just made up: "To fell a dragon, you must chop off its head." I love that. That's so good. It's one of the new Baldur's Gate
An old saying that I just made up.
Yeah, it's an old saying I just made up. Fell a dragon, you must chop off its head. It's like
the FTC is brilliant. Okay, the FTC is alleging that Epic used dark patterns to trick players into making unwanted purchases and let children rack up unauthorized charges without any parental involvement. So the company has deployed a variety of dark patterns aimed at getting consumers of all ages to make unintended purchases. Fortnite's counterintuitive, inconsistent, and confusing button configuration led players to incur unwanted charges based on the press of a single button. Oh, jeez.
Mm-hmm.
Get wrecked.
I don't, like I said, I don't trust either party in this, but I mean, again, how they screwed this up, probably just piss poor designing in a combination of those money people going, how can we make it easier for us to take money from all the poor folk?
Well, I guaranteed. Oh, this is all deliberate. All deliberate. I'm sure there's not a single design decision that doesn't go through massive approval steps, and certainly the people who want to funnel you into making purchases and transactions have a say in that. I mean, I'm sure they pour tons of money into that. I would say the mistake factor is it's more than just poor design. I'm sure it was intentional.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, it's like what's a great example of this? Probably the who's the young kid from The Office, honey?
Which one?
The rich guy who's like, not the rich guy, the guy who becomes the rich guy. He starts out as the intern, and he's Ryan, yeah. So Ryan did that thing where he made the website, right? And he's like, report your sales on two fronts, right? And turns out that's fraud. And it's like, did he know it was fraud? Well, not really until he realized that it was fraud. Then he tried to cover it up, right? Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Oh, did you? So, Crystal Dynamics is partnering with Amazon Game Studios for the next Tomb Raider.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hopefully this means we're going to get a really good Tomb Raider game.
Mm-hmm.
The answer to that is probably a no.
Well, my response to it when someone posted that on Discord, my response was, well, Lara's had a good run. Rip.
No.
Rip Tomb Raider. I don't know. I mean, maybe. We'll see. We can hope, I guess. But not that Amazon has a great track record for any of what...
Don't hold your breath.
I mean, that's untrue. Amazon's... Some of what they've put out on Prime has been pretty good. They've got some good original shows. They've also got some very bad stuff. And then Bungie hires former Valorant director Joe Ziegler. Oh yeah, the Activision Blizzard president and COO has left the company to join a blockchain startup. What do you know? It's almost as if all these crazy... It just makes you think. What kind of people do they have at the helm? All right.
Well, there's another story going around right now that I don't know how much we want to talk about it. But what do you think the... I think we mentioned this a couple times before, but a new report just came out. It's been making the rounds. I'm going to try to not use any of the actual names because I don't want to trigger something. So you know how there's these big governments have these big 3-letter word organizations?
I don't know if we want to go into that. Yeah, I know it.
Well, turns out that there's these people who work at these 3-letter organizations that most people tend to refer to as spooks. And these spooks get jobs when they leave, and it's kind of weird. You'd think they would go into a related industry that's,
You'd think.
that has like some level of like connection to their previous job. Well, they've in turn the vast majority of get jobs at places like Twitter, Facebook, and Activision Blizzard.
Yeah. Go figure.
Kind of shocking. And there's so many of them that work there that they create their own Slack channels, and that they bring in their own former coworkers into the new company in secret meetings that they don't have with regular workers. So bizarre. So weird. I mean, I'm sure it's just a coincidence, right?
Must
be.
Yeah.
You really need to get your face cam set up there, Saib. I'm getting tired of talking to a gigantic S. Just saying. All right. Well, let's go through the Steam Awards.
Yeah, let's vote.
All right, and those of you in the live chat, tell us your votes and tell us what your picks are for these categories. And yeah, we'll just go through this here. I'm gonna I've got. Oh, hold on. Wife is trying to call me. I'm going to be voting on my phone because I'm not logged in here on the browser on the computer. But so I mean the first one, you'd think this should be the last one we go through, but 2022 Game of the Year. What do you think? Moon, what's your Game of the Year? Stray. I saw that coming. Live streaming, what's up? Question mark.
Yeah, Stray is it's so good. God of War is so good. Elden Ring is so good. I think those three things are like top of the line. I really did like the Dying Light 2 was really good, but I don't know if it was that good.
What does that even mean?
Well, I don't know if it's like
Game of the Year good.
Than
Elden
Ring.
I would put Plague Tale Requiem on the list before I'd put Dying Light 2 on the list. In fact, I'm surprised it's not on here. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's not in very many categories other than it's in one down below. But yeah, for this, I don't know. Stray is also fantastic, but it's also it's a very small game. So can it be given Game of the Year? I guess it really depends on what your impression of what Game of the Year should be is. Mm-hmm. Whatever the reason, the winner of this year's Game of the Year award is an instant classic. I mean, if it's instant classic, if that's the criteria, I mean, it's hard to tell what games are going to go on to be classics sometimes, right? I'd say Dying Light 2, well, as much as I loved Dying Light 2 and it was quite good, one of my favorite games this year, I don't know, I can't quite give it Game of the Year. Maybe it's because it's the zombies thing again, which, can be fun, but it had fantastic parkour stuff. If it had that parkour element in something other than a zombie apocalypse, that might have pushed it over the edge and made it my Game of the Year. Not at all saying it's a bad game. Kisuke says Dying Light would be my second choice. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
He voted for Elden Ring.
I kind of feel like
Ah,
just for cultural impact, I would have to give it to
mhm,
Elden Ring.
mhm.
But that's only because Plague Tale Requiem's not on the list. All right. Any other thoughts?
Mhm. Cats.
Cats. Cat game.
Cats.
V-
Yeah. If it has cats in it, I like it.
VR game of the year. Now, if they ported straight to VR, would that or would that
Mhm.
not be
Mhm.
epic?
That would be
The,
so fun.
that would be, yeah. That's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, that's brilliant.
That would be amazing.
As
That would be so brilliant for somebody to like put that into. That's next gen VR. Is like to do that, but then to like not just have it be campy and funny, but to have it actually be like, you know, the legitimately
Mhm.
like so cool and so
yeah,
different. It's like you can live as a cat for a day. It would be so cool.
Ah,
just
yes.
a cat simulator, cat simulator.
Cat
In
simulator.
addition
Yep.
to the whole
Exactly.
story campaign. So let's see. We got
Mhm.
for VR game of the year. We got Bone Lab, which I don't even really know what this game is. I mean, it
Uh,
looks kind of cool. First
mhm.
person gun, sword, pushing boulders. They're not
Mhm.
showing much in this little preview. Uh, Hitman 3 VR.
Mhm.
I love the Hitman games. Um, I guess, yeah, I mean, haven't tried it in VR myself, so, and they don't really give, again, I want to see through 47's cold, dead eyes to really get an impression of what that's like in VR. Green Hell. Looks like it. Green Hell also looks pretty cool. Some kind of VR survival game.
Mhm. Yeah.
Among Us VR,
Jungle
just a
time.
fun idea.
Yes.
And then Inside the Back Rooms. So I don't know.
Inside the back rooms is probably one. It's like I'm not much for psychological horror,
Mhm.
in the way that it's typically done. But I gotta give it to them for this. This is absolutely brilliant way of doing it.
Mhm.
Amazing, 100%.
A lot of these look pretty good. Haven't played any of them in VR myself, so I guess we'll have to.
Yeah, it's between the last three for
Yeah,
me, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know, but it's like I really do like the psychological drama or like genre. Yeah.
Kisuke says Bone Lab is pretty good, but haven't. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like VR is still, for a good system, is still prohibitively expensive
Mhm.
for a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right, labor of love category. Now here's an interesting one. The description: this game has been out for a while. The team is well past the debut of their creative baby. But being the good parents they are, these devs continue to nurture and support their creation. Oh my goodness.
I
Does that mean
discovered
they're going
this year. I discovered Project Zomboid,
to. Yeah?
and I have to
Mm.
say that this is probably one of the most advanced simulation games in general, and then it's one of the best zombie games, actual zombie games I have ever seen. And it is probably like it really like it takes the cake for this one for me for sure, because this is like the things you can do in this game, and then the replayability, the it's both multiplayer and private, and it also has
Ooh.
an enormous amount of mods and everything. And I was legitimately thinking about like maybe starting up a server where we could mess around with this and play with people, and yeah, within our community. um yeah, amazing. It's so
Yes.
cool.
I might
It's
have to try. I'm
so
gonna have to try this
cool.
one. This looks pretty
I
cool.
like it.
You,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you have skills. You can start out in a whole wide variety of stuff. The challenges people do is like people play like these games where you play as an overweight um nerd basically who just wakes up one morning and it's already 3 days into the zombie apocalypse, but you didn't know because you didn't leave your house for 3 days.
I love that.
And then they do other challenges, and it's like, it's so good. And again, the amount of mods for this game is truly, truly fantastical.
Nice.
So yeah.
All right, so Cybe gives it to Project Zomboid. We've also got Dota 2, No Man's Sky, Deep Rock Galactic, which I've never even heard of. What
Overwhelmingly
the heck
positive.
is this?
Oh, it's FPS.
Okay. And then this. Oh yeah. This little title that got some buzz a while back. Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk. What are those numbers? 2077. Cyberpunk 2077 is on the list.
Right.
It's gotten a lot better. It really
has.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like it's not. How do I put it? Is it a labor of love? I'm sure for a lot of people it is. For the people actually in there working on it. Go ahead, Moon.
I find it kind of amusing that they have shots from the anime on there. I was like, that's technically not part of the game. So yeah. I don't know. I'm not voting for it because I'm like, it's still janky. I still can't play it soundless. Like, whatever. Yeah. Done with it.
While I believe it was a labor of love for a lot of people, I feel like it.
Yeah.
I feel like it wasn't in general. It was
too many cooks
a
at
big
the pot.
Corporation that made some bad corporate decisions on it. It's not like, I'm guessing. So a lot of the games here, Project Zomboid, I'm guessing doesn't have a massive development team. No Man's Sky, again, started as a very small indie project. Deep Rock Galactic, I don't know much about, and
Hi, Shua.
Dota 2, Shua, nice to see ya. Dota 2,
nice to see you, Shua.
Again, it's something that really started small. These all look like things that started small and grew. I don't know. One of these things is not like the other. And that thing is Cyberpunk. So. All right. Better with Friends category. Let's see. We got Raft, Ready or Not, Monster Hunter Rise, Multiversus, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the second next generation double Call of Duty, double Modern Warfare, double... Not to be confused with the other Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Well, I don't know. Have you guys played any of these? Like,
I tried playing Raft, but I don't like the camera. It made me nauseous. It reminded me too much of the, what do you call it? That pirate game people were playing for a while. I couldn't.
Is there a setting? You should see if there's a setting to turn off camera bobbing or camera wavering or something like that.
Something like, yeah. Otherwise, it looks like a super fun game. Like, I watched Valkyrie play with her friends on it, and it looked really fun, and that made me want to try it. But I camera.
Yeah. All right. Well, anybody in the live chat have opinions about the Better with Friends category? I don't think none of us three really play a ton of these types of games. Like we have some multiplayer games that we have really enjoyed. For the King was great. That, of course, that's not going to be on the list for this year. But then again, Raft only came out this year? How's that possible?
Really? I
swore that
it must have been out in early access or something. I've seen videos for it forever. Unless I'm thinking of a different game.
Raft is also a great concept. It's like, this is such a cool idea, and you're like, this is so much fun, and then you realize that this is definitely not something you would want to do in real life at all, ever.
Well, most things in games aren't things I would want to do in real life. That's why we play video games.
There's some interest in like doing a survival like zombie game, right? Like there's some level of like, yeah, I could do that. People they become zombie preppers, right? Where it's like, It's like, oh yeah, I'm mounting a chainsaw on my F-150. It's gonna be great, and like, yeah, there's stuff like that. It never happens, but there's that interest that people are like, yeah, this could actually work. You could legitimately do a raft survival thingy, and you could go off into the middle of the Pacific Ocean, where there's a garbage patch 3 times the size of Texas. And you could definitely do some of this stuff. It just would, end horribly with dysentery and other things.
Stop that says what? Who wouldn't want to live in survival horror? Yeah, the one survival horror that might be fun to live in is Choo Choo Charles. You get to drive around in a train. Yeah. However, getting eaten by him would be most unpleasant indeed. So yeah, like zombie, the whole apocalypse scenario. I mean, it does seem fun. It's fun to think about trying to survive in that world until you remember how hungry and cold and uncomfortable you would be all the time. And that's like, yeah. I like my video games.
Yep. Video games are
good. Okay.
Good way to try things out.
here's a good one. Outstanding visual style. Some good ones on here. We got Scorn, which I must say, I mean, it's got quite a style.
Very striking. Woo!
It's a very striking style. I can't stop. I'm not playing this game. I just feel like I would not be able to. I have
it. I'm playing it.
You've been playing it?
Oh, no, I need to fire it up. I've been binging too much of that space game.
Yeah.
But I have this one in my library, and like I'm really looking forward to playing.
It's not a game that it's just too much into the body horror for me, but definitely a unique style. I will give it that. Bendy in the Dark Revival. I like, very surreal, almost.
Spooky.
Yeah, it's spooky stuff. What's the guy that did like Nightmare Before Christmas and whatnot?
Tim Burton.
I knew it was Tim something.
We were just watching
Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, Edward Scissorhands. When we went on our little mini vacation, it was great.
Scissorhands.
Yeah.
Cult of the Lamb.
And, like, I watched that and I'm like, who, like, oh my god, it's like could you people use any amount of logic at all? Like just any amount of logic, like just basic logic that a third grader would think of just naturally when trying to problem solve. Nope. No, everybody's an absolute idiot.
Well, I think you're asking for a little much when you're asking for logic from that kind of movie. Right. Cult of the Lamb. So you know what this reminds me of?
This is the one I voted for.
It's a visual style. This reminds me of Happy Tree Friends. You remember those?
Yeah.
Miles Morales. Spider-Man. So okay, I gotta ask. So everyone a couple weeks ago on Twitter was arguing about whether or not Miles Morales is Spider-Man. Where did that start? Like, what was the origin of that argument?
It's been going on and off for the longest time. So the original concept and argument from, and I really don't want to get into the weeds here. I'm just explaining his perspective.
Right.
In his original concept for Spider-Man and the multiverse kind of stuff, the creator, Stan Lee, saw some of his heroes as being multi-dimensional but the same. Like he, in his mind, Peter Parker was always Peter Parker, the same person. Like he would go to, if you gathered up all the Spider-Mans, and they did in one of the really old episodes of Spider-Man, which wasn't the old cartoon, but like the second one, the second iteration of that, which was really really good, which was the pinnacle of Spider-Man back before um, all the new live movies, right? So this was back in the like the 80s and the 90s. It's like he was the same Spider-Man in all dimensions. He was Peter Parker, the same person. And it was a story concept behind it where they always all lost Uncle Ben. So you might say that he wasn't very imaginative when thinking about multi-dimensional stuff, because if it's the same person, the exact same person in all universes, and they make always the same mistake, it's like that's not really what the point of different dimensions is. But
yeah, I mean, you could argue there will be similar dimensions if you truly have infinite universes. But
exactly,
but yeah,
right?
like it's bizarre when you think of like watching those episodes of Star Trek where something is like outlandishly different. There's like the universe is incredibly different, and yet you've still got the same group of people together on the space station or on the starship. It's kind of like, well, I don't know.
Right.
And some people would say, hey, this isn't very realistic, I don't like this, like I think it makes more sense. But then again, you look at Rick and Morty, where despite being, having all these multiple dimensions, Rick and Morty are always Rick and Morty, except for that one really weird Rick who's also he's fused with Morty, so he's like this middle person between the two of them. And we've only ever seen that once, and then we discover that actually that's the whole universe is like that because the Ricks made it like that, and they discounted all realities where Beth was the smartest person in the universe, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera.
Sorry,
So yeah, so stuff like that. Again, it makes like that was his logic for it, and I won't say whether or not it was accurate. I don't want to get into the debate of that. I like how the multiverse is portrayed in the Spider-Man multiverse movie. I think that was legitimately pretty cool. That it did a really really decent job. I like the several different versions of it. I like I like Silk.
Oops.
I like all the stories that happen, and I think that they've been reasonably well made. It stands to, we'll see whether or not the comic books and the new movies hold their weight. But yeah, that's the responsible. That's kind of like the back concept for it. Now, when with the specific argument about Miles, it comes from the fact that there is an existing Spider-Man in his universe, and he takes up his mantle after he dies. So
okay.
that's
but
where
doesn't that happen all the
question
time
is.
in Marvel? Like,
Yeah.
It does happen all the time, but it's not the same person. So like they're different people, and that's where kind of the thing is like, that's where I see like the point is like, is he actually Peter Parker Spider-Man? Whereas like you go to these other universes and it's Jane Parker, and it's just Peter was just born a girl. You go to other universes and it's his daughter who's the Spider-Man, or it's somebody else's daughter who became the the air quotes Spider-Man. And so those are the questions. And again, there's certain characters like Silk and I want to say Silk. I'm gonna have to look this up again. But yeah, there's all these other characters. It's like, are they the original Spider-Man in that universe? And the answer to some of those is no. And then in other questions, it's yes. So in other universes, the first Spider-Man person with all of Spider-Man's abilities, and the person who fought the Green Goblin, who fought the all the traditional Spider-Man villains, and helped and played a part in their creation in the extent that they did, was these other Spider-Mans. But in other versions, the Spider-Mans are not actually Spider-Man. They're actually Spider-Man existed, Peter Parker or some variant of him or her existed in these alternate realities, then they either died or went missing or MIA or whatever, and these other people then filled that spot with similar power sets.
Sure, but I mean, it's... I don't know. Like, Spider-Man is the secret identity, or an identity, a persona. So, I mean, someone else could fill that role and still rightly be called Spider-Man, even though they have it's a different person. But it's
like passing on the mantle.
Like, isn't that the case with Black Panther? Like, there's been many of them.
Yeah, but that's the same thing there too, where it's the same like hero identity of Spider-Man. That's one question, but then the next question is, are they Peter Parker? So in some universes, the Peter Parker person is literally a different. It's literally Peter Parker's parents, instead of having a son, had a daughter, and she became Spider-Woman or Spider-Girl or Silk or whoever, like all of the others, like Gwen, like, you know, some of those people are the legitimate child of the parents that had in a different dimension sired Peter Parker, but in other ones they didn't, and then this other person. So that's the question, and it's like, yeah, that's the interesting thing, and
seems like a pointless argument to me. I don't know.
Well, it is in a lot of ways. Yes, it is. It is a pointless argument.
It's kind of like sometimes you have to distinguish so the audience knows which one you're talking about. But yeah.
But it is an accurate thing, where that's the debate. Like, that's an actual like the debate is real because it makes sense, because it's like, so is Superman, like, is he Clark Kent? And then in other universes where he didn't, he died before, when Krypton exploded, but his cousin, she came and she was actually adopted by the Kents, and then she's this, is she the actual Superman? And it's like, in that universe, yes, she is the actual Superman.
It's
that replaces. Yeah. Because she grew up in that role. There wasn't another previous iteration of her already there, with those powers, and then she took up the mantle. That's the question. It's it's a nerdy question that I love, and I'm still trying to find this my favorite version of Spider-Man, which I'm trying to pull up at the same time.
Well, my question is, when do we get the Squid Man movie? Because look at this. Sorry, I got just totally mesmerized by this tweet while I was looking for something else entirely. But look at this.
Yeah.
Person picks this up. Boom. Completely translucent. And then boom. Whoa. It's like, ha, I'm here again. Boom. I'm cloaked.
Is it a cuttlefish?
Some kind of squid. The tweet says reef squid. Anyway, very cool. If we could figure out how they do that, I mean, we'd have Romulan cloaking technology.
Right.
Because I'm sure it's very easy to adapt, that squid's physiology to a spaceship or something. I'm sure it's just like copy and paste, right?
Build a squid ship.
Yes. Squid ship. Soft. I wonder if soft spaceships would have any. Probably not. Probably be very bad. They're soft robots. I don't know about soft spaceships. Wouldn't it be squid cloaking technology? Yeah, unless it was a Romulan squid. Chew on that one. All right. What were we even? Oh, right. I was looking for... So Kotaku had one of the dumbest tweets I've ever seen earlier today. Or recently. I don't know if it's from today. I don't even know if I should bother bringing it up. But they got ratioed and it was hilarious. All right. Isn't it weird, though? Like, okay. So Star Trek... This is the one thing that bugs me about Star Trek is the lack of creativity when it comes to coming up with animal species on other planets. It's always like, oh yeah, this is a Klingon dog. oh, this is a Betazoid kitten. It's like, why don't you come up with something
the
new?
Technology in the past wasn't capable of like really inventing.
No, but you don't even have to show it. But even
new.
when they're talking about it, it's like Counselor Troy is like, oh yes, I had a Betazoid kitten. It's like, so cats evolved on Betazoid just like they did on Earth. Okay.
Well, obviously, Ash, it's because of the forefather species that seeded life on all of the planets.
I suppose you could argue that,
which
yeah.
made the reason why all of the planets had all of the same similar humanoids, with the exception of the Ithonians or Ithorians. Ithorians. No, I'm combining multiple names here. I'm sorry, I'm not a super nerd.
I'm glad I
don't know this stuff.
Don't lie. You're not a super nerd. Give me a break, man.
I know, that's the joke, because I'm pointing out the super nerd reason why all the humanoids look so similar.
I'm glad they explained that. Like,
in the original galaxy.
Not that was the best
explanation.
I wonder. Do you think it would have been so they do this episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where they explain why why all these major races in the show are humanoid, in that they all look similar, 2 arms, 2 legs, standing upright kind of thing. I wonder, was it better that they explained that, or should they just have left that as part of just something unexplained in the show, kind of like the Universal Translator, which they just yada yada around it because there's no way.
They were getting so much critique for it that became the answer for it. And they did tie it in, and it is actually a very major part of the extended universe. Like it's legitimately has not a major part, but it is a major story component within the universe. So I think, yes, it is good. I don't want it to be the go-to similar answer. And I like sci-fi, crap, what's it called? Mass Effect, where they do, go out beyond the bounds. But when you do that, you do have the difficulty of the Krogan are so badass. Let's show you how badass Krogans fight each other. And Krogans fight each other by shoving each other around in basically what is a chest fight that looks really crappy when we animate it. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing.
See, before I saw that episode of Star Trek, I just assumed that I just assumed it was like, the conditions on these planets were similar enough that things just happen the same way, and I'm just going to suspend disbelief, because there's so much you have to suspend disbelief on in Star Trek if you really think about it. But yeah, I don't know. I get that people would be like, why is this the case? I also read that originally, instead of the Borg, they envisioned an insectoid race.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's just too much.
It was too much.
I think that's where the Thorians come from.
Yeah, and so but due to budget constraints, they went with the cyborg style.
So
Borg.
let's think about all of the non-humanoid aliens that they've come up with in the Star Trek universe, that they tried to make as kind of a main species that they could work as a foil to the Starfleet. We had the blob people. Remember the blob people, where it was just clearly a guy in an enormous blanket that was very shiny, and he was like, blah 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 blah. We have this treaty, and the treaty says these people must go. Blah 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 blah. That didn't go over very well. A lot of people thought that was kind of crap.
I remember the fish-headed people. Those were quite. Those were quite the thing.
Had the fish head people, and people didn't really go for that either. The Thorians are really cool, but they were only cool once you could create enough sci-fi CG to make them fit, and even then they didn't it's still hard to get them into shots and scenes and stuff. Then they did have this basically same problem with Species 8472. So there's that problem.
Which I thought they pulled it off. I thought they pulled off 8472 quite well.
I think they did too, but if you go back and you do watch some of those early,
well, the effects are crap.
CG
I mean,
stuff,
the effects are really crap. But you just kind of have to see past that to what their story they're telling, right?
Yeah, but it did work, and their use of shadows was quite good in most of the scenes. But there was a couple of the scenes where they're like, "We're going to show this like full light," and it's like, "Oh no, that's not going to age well at all. Oh no, that looks like terrible CGI." But my personal favorite villains, completely non-humanoid, that Star Trek crew actually fought. Bubbles. Remember the bubble species?
I don't believe I've seen that
one. Giant bubble
one.
species. Nope. Original Trek.
That's original series.
Giant
the only part
bubbles.
I've just recently started watching the original series from beginning to end. So, I'll get there eventually, I'm sure. It's it's a good show. I see why it got the cult following that it did. They really had, because they were so limited in their effects of things, they really had to put a lot into the story and character development, and did it quite well. All right. We were talking about the Game Awards at some point, I think. Oh yeah, and the show mentions the tar monster that killed Yar. I always thought that thing looked. That was such a cheesy effect that they did. I remember watching that
You didn't like the tar monster.
Watching that episode as a kid, it scared the ever living daylights out of me. But watching it again as an adult, I'm like, that nice. You're coming up on some kind of elevator thing with like a goopy sheet over you. Oh, okay, I give you. Supposed to believe that you're an all-powerful embodiment of hatred or whatever the hell they do. So, oh man, how did we get off on this Star Trek tangent? But if you removed all the episodes of Star Trek where the Enterprise breaks, so speaking about Next Generation now, because I've been watching it through again, where the Enterprise inexplicably breaks, or somebody gets mind controlled, or there's some duplicate of a crew member. Remove all those episodes, you'd have like a 1-season show. They reuse those plot beats so often. It's just, we're doing a routine thing. Oh no, something broke inexplicably. I'm thinking, this ship's got to go back into you got to go back to the design schematics for a couple more decades, because clearly there's some big problems.
No drama, no story.
I think one of my favorite things to kind of point and laugh at in the universe is the amount of times that you have duplicate actors. It's like Gul Dukat appeared in multiple places in multiple periods of time.
Yeah.
Not as the same actor in different makeup, as essentially the same actor in the same makeup. Or some cases, Tuvok. Did you know that Tuvok appeared in an episode and did a fight scene with Jean-Luc Picard?
Yes, I did, because I just watched that episode recently. So did the guy.
And
so
then
the guy that played Tom Paris.
6 months later, he's the main character of the new show.
It was kind of weird, yeah.
It was so bad. I'm like, I've seen this dude before. He's missing his pointy ears, but other than that, it's the same dude.
Yeah.
It's just genetics, guys.
What's that?
Just genetics.
Yeah, well, it's he's Tuvok's dad kind of got around. Let's
Yeah, it's just a doppelganger.
It's his half brother. It's his human half brother.
Yeah.
All right, we were talking about the Game Awards, I think. So, most innovative gameplay. Now, this is an interesting category.
Stray.
Stray, definitely.
Yes, because you get to be a
Yes,
cat.
and
Yeah, I do have to agree with that. Like, being a cat obviously trumps a lot of stuff.
I do think that takes it for me. But there's some pretty unique. There are some pretty unique choices on this list. Teardown, some kind of. It looks like some kind of demolition game. Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. Dome Keeper. Dome Keeper is an interesting one. Yeah, so you literally have to mine for resources while defending your dome from the aliens on this planet that you're on for some reason. I don't remember the scenario of the story, but yeah, I would probably give it to.
It makes me, that hits a little too close to home, because all I think about when I see Dome Keeper is me trying to work outside when there's mosquitoes. It's it's basically the exact same thing.
I think
it's like run outside, do some work. Like you're looking out for the swarm. They're around somewhere. You're trying to get back to the protection of either a shelter or a vehicle or something like that, and then you get inside and you just watch a swarm come to you, and you're like,
I enjoyed watching a couple of YouTubers play that, but I think I would give it to Stray as well. They captured the cat perspective so well.
Yes.
Here's a fun.
Have a nap here. Knock this over here. Scratch this over here. Yes.
Yeah, and like the cat behavior, but also just the perspective of being so close to the ground and having to look up at the world.
Yep.
So here's a fun category: best game you suck at.
Elden Ring.
FIFA 23, because you didn't pay enough money.
FIFA 23, yeah, there we go. Yeah. I didn't vote on this one. Now I have a reason to vote. Yeah, FIFA 23. I suck at this game because I do not use the microtransactions in it. Therefore, I'm broke all the time.
Elden Ring, Total War, Warhammer 3, Victoria 3, and GTFO. There's a couple of great choices that are not on here because they were smaller indie titles. But Will You Snail, full walkthrough of it on our channel here on the Triple S League. Will You Snail is a fantastic. My second favorite platformer after Celeste. Now, I know Celeste would be on this list if it had come out this year. Will You Snail is along the same lines, like as in just being a really tough as nails kind of platformer. It's very different from Celeste in terms of like the settings and the visuals and the movement mechanics. It's actually got super simple movement mechanics, but still just makes for some incredibly fun gameplay if you enjoy that kind of thing, which I do. So that's my best game you suck at choice. It's not even on the list. Best soundtrack. Well, let's see. We got Metal Hellsinger, Sonic Frontier. I'm very curious about Sonic Frontiers. I want to try this game. I don't really want to pay $70 for it, but I'm very
Metal Hellsinger.
very curious about Sonic Frontier. Anyone out there played it? And it's on it is on Steam, obviously, which I keep forgetting because I keep thinking it's only on the Switch, but. Yeah, Kisuke says Metal Hellsinger. Mm-hmm. It's got incredible reviews.
Yeah, it's got my vote. And I mentioned this during the obviously the because it was up for the same one at the Game Awards, and it's like I think for a musical based game, this is probably one of the newest, most brilliant takes on it that I've seen. Mm-hmm. I certainly don't want to see another 500 copies of this. I don't think that's what they should do. I think people should think outside the box. I think that you could probably try to have a strategy like RTS type game that utilizes music in that. I think there's probably an amazing, very addictive game to be made in that component somewhere. And then to have like a little like the game that we've played before, you've done a couple of videos on it, the Dolphin crap, how do you pronounce that, the super relaxing tile building game.
Oh yeah,
It's
Dorfromantic, yeah.
yeah. Having that game in combination with like just some super like chill music, and then feeding the pieces a little bit differently, where it's a little bit more automated of like do this, do that, do this, do that. Like that'd be a total like chill stream. I could imagine people consuming copious amounts of
Yeah, I should check if they've updated that.
marijuana and stuff while they play it. Yeah, it's like it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I gotta check if Dorfromantic has been updated. That's my one complaint about it was I wished it had more music. I felt like I was hearing the same tracks again and again very frequently, and that's good music, but I thought just a little more variety of the music, maybe twice as many songs. Not a big ask. Just double your soundtrack. That's all. Outstanding story-rich game. You all know which one I'm giving this to, but we got the Spider-Man Remaster, Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection. Look at this. Three games on this list are not even games that originally came out this year. Like, they were released this year, but they're like remixes or repackaging of previous games. Does that not tell you the state of story writing and gaming right now? Keyscase says, I'm really enjoying God of War, so I gave this award to that. I've heard it's excellent. I got to give it to Plague Tale Requiem. Loving that game. Unfortunately, not all the way through it yet, just simply because I'm doing an as-I-go walkthrough of it. So I play the chapter, and then I make the walkthrough for that chapter. It makes for slow progression. But it's I really enjoy it. Watch some check out what the gameplay looks like. It's not super action heavy. The action is the action is more strategic than sort of the combat, I should say, is more strategic than action based. But it's I really enjoy it, and it is, as far as being story rich, it's quite story rich. Sit back and relax game. So Dorfromantic's on this list. We also have Slime Rancher 2, Dreamlight Valley, Power Wash Simulator. I mean, you want to talk about innovative game concepts? Somebody built a game around the idea of power washing, which I guess
power wash all the things.
It's, I guess, scratches that there's something very satisfactory about power washing something clean. I will give you that. Cleaning like
people power washing like rugs or like old mats and stuff, and just like watching it get clean is very
yeah. Cleaning my I have this short driveway outside my garage, and I was blasting it with the hose, and it had in the crack in the center, there was all this caked in dirt, and blasting that out of there was like, oh yeah. And then, so I would give this to Dorfromantic. Skywalker Saga, I don't know. I never found this to be a very relaxing game. I actually found this Skywalker Saga, I found to be incredibly boring playing by myself. I had a blast playing it with my kids because, that just made it fun. But playing it by myself, I was like, oh, what's even the point? There is zero challenge here whatsoever. That's I guess the point, right? But I guess I didn't find it relaxing. I can't describe this as a relaxing game, but for some people it might be. Dreamlight Valley, a lot of people are enjoying that one. It's basically like Animal Crossing set in the Disney world, in the Disney, the massive Disney crossover universe.
Yeah, right.
And
It looks cute.
Slime Rancher 2.
And again,
Is that this?
why it took them so long to make a game like that is just beyond me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you would have thought that would have been like a no-brainer like
You'd think.
20 years ago for them
Yeah.
to like invest heavily in that. But nope. No.
Looking for logic in anything Disney
All
does,
these
though.
things on my plate cannot touch.
Mm-hmm. So let's see here. Best game on the go. We've got Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, Vampire Survivors, Death Stranding. Really? Okay, the Death Stranding Director's Cut is best game on the go. Okay. Brotato. What the heck is Brotato?
It looks like Vampire Survivors.
Okay, yeah, it's like
Potatoes.
it is like Vampire Survivors. Brotato is a top-down arena shooter roguelite where you play a potato. Okay. Came out in September. When did Vampire Survivors come out? October. Huh. That's always interesting when you got two games of the same type that come out right at the same time. Marvel Snap 2. What would you give this one to? Any takers? Any votes? Any thoughts?
Potato looks very cute, but Saib was really enjoying Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, Vampire Survivors wins this hands down. Like, I mean, it's one dude and he reinvented the shooter genre. Like, talk about next gen. There are other versions of that combat system that are smoother, that are more interesting, that have some unique takes on it. But most of those people are vile, soulless, thieving POSs that should never, ever make a dime in this industry.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the concept of a top-down shooter where you're...
Not all of them, just some of them.
The top-down shooter against hordes of enemies concept is... I mean, it's nothing new. But this game found a life that... It had... I don't know what you'd call it, but I just call it that X factor that... Yeah, Shua votes for Death Stranding for the irony. I guess, the whole point of the game is like being on the go. So you can simulate being on the go while you're on the go.
Hilarious.
Get some
There's so many levels of hilarity in that.
get your naked Norman Reedus fix while you're at it. All right. Well, that's it for Steam Awards. Let's see what else. What else should we talk about before wrapping up here?
Join the Discord so you can hear Commander and Luna.
Yes. Hello, Commander or Luna. Which one is that?
This is Commander.
Been walking across streams.
Don't read us, shame me, says Shua. Sub, you never did send me the link to that article you were talking about. The upcoming games.
Oh, that's right. Because I was going to read them because it's on Forbes, and Forbes is.
All right, yeah, go ahead. Just list them out.
Yeah, not from. Yeah, okay, all right. So we've got in January we have Monster Hunter Rise.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Fire Emblem Engage on the Switch, and we have Forspoken.
Forspoken.
And then Dead Space Remake. So Forspoken, that's that one game. It got delayed. It's got wild spell combat and a really confusing narrative where it's like sort of like an isekai, but apparently it's not an isekai, but apparently it is some kind of a thing where you jump between two worlds and there's stuff. So it's like I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if it's going to be absolute garbage or moderate garbage or a surprise hit. I have no idea.
Okay,
It's gonna be interesting
well, it better
to see
be
people react to it, though.
it better be good with the price they're asking for it.
Yeah,
Costs almost
just a bit.
it's priced it higher than their typical AAA game.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of these like, oh, you really need to play this game because it's the next big thing that you need to be playing. And then you're like, well, why? And they're like, don't ask questions, just buy the game. If you don't buy the game, there's clearly something wrong with you.
Yes.
Wow. Aggressive much?
And it's like, oh, crying out loud. All right.
Yeah,
fine.
like I'm thinking this is, I don't know. Yeah, it's like 93 something Canadian, which is that's got to be at least, I don't know, what's that got to be in American, like 80? Or yeah, that's quite a bit more than what we are usually paying for a AAA title. All right, so what about February then?
Well, the Dead Space one, I mean that one might be interesting too. But in February we got the big banger. We got the big banger. Definitely my suggestion, don't buy anything in January. Don't buy anything in January because we got in February 10th, Hogwarts Legacy.
Ah, yes.
Hogwarts Legacy. This is going to be amazing. I mean, I don't want to overhype it, but I think it's going to be amazing. I'm really.
It does look pretty good.
I
mean, the open world aspects of it look fantastic.
Then there's Horizon Call of the Mountain, Octopath Traveler 2, which, I mean...
We're already getting a Horizon 3. Okay.
What?
Horizon Call of the Mountain. Oh, no, that's a DLC for Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah.
Right, never mind. Sorry. And Octopath Traveler 2.
And this is... I mean, it's not... I don't think it's an expansion. This is the PSVR 2 that it's coming out to. So I don't think it's a big game. But Octopath Traveler 2, like Octopath Traveler was probably one of the biggest sleeper hits of the last decade. And so the number 2 coming out, I don't know. This might be something that I might definitely have to try out for sure.
This is that old school RPG style that you really like, Side.
Well, except it's not though. So they utilize you pull it up on Steam, I think.
Yeah, I've got it here.
So Octopath Traveler utilized, yes, it was traditional in the sense of like it used old school graphics, but it used old school graphics in a high tech new way.
Oh yeah, sure, but it's trying to emulate that style of games. Like, oh shoot, what was that?
Well, again, no, because that's not a fair interpretation of it. It's like, does it look like it's a 32-bit game from years and years ago? Yes, in the sense of like if you took a single snapshot from it and then looked at it very briefly, the environments are full 3D with ray tracing lighting in it, and it's just, I mean, it visually when you're playing the game, it looks nothing like it looks like an old game, but it
looks like it, but it looks nothing like it. Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with anything they're saying. I'm just saying I can see why you like this game. It's of a style that you like.
Yeah, like, but it's just the depth of it is just so different, and these games are always enormously huge. So probably, and the voice acting in the game, I think a lot of lines, I think most lines in Octopath Traveler 2 are voiced. Don't quote me on that, but that's the heavy emphasis that we've been led to believe. So we'll see. But as far as depth and the ability to choose and create stories and play with particular characters as you want, I think this is going to be really
cool.
Good. So,
It looks super fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
What else we got?
Past that we have Destiny 2 Lightfall.
Okay.
Yay! Then we've got Last of Us Part 1.
You're on break. Why are you so tired?
Yeah.
I did that intentionally because it's Last of Us Part 1.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Like, obviously, like, yawn. Why is this like, why is this out here again? Like, it's like I've bitched about this franchise and series long enough. We've got Skull and Bones coming March 9th. Sorry, I missed Wo Long Fallen Destiny. I don't know anything about this. It's a new Team Ninja game. Looks interesting, brand new IP. So we'll see where that goes. Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yes.
That's coming out on March 17th.
Yes.
We've got Resident Evil 4 making an appearance. The remake version, obviously not the original. And then we've got, and then that's it. That's the first quarter, essentially. We have more and more rumors coming up all the time about this super awesome show that Microsoft is supposedly working on. And sure, I'll mention the whole like Microsoft Activision buyout thing that's going on, and the hilarious the stark BS that's going on there. When you think of PlayStations, what do you think? The game lineup.
When I think of PlayStations, what do I think?
Yeah, like what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Games that look kind of cool, but
exclusives.
Yeah, exclusives.
Everybody knows
exclusives
PlayStation
in way
is
too
the
many words.
platform for exclusives. Yeah. Do you know why? The main reason the FTC has done a lawsuit to block Microsoft buying out Activision, because they're worried that Microsoft will have too many exclusives,
too big of a monopoly,
and that will hurt competition.
Right.
The number of exclusives that show up on PlayStation in a single quarter are not even the total amount of exclusives that show up on the Xbox 2 years at a time.
Yeah.
So the FTC is smoking something mighty powerful.
Yeah.
POS.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I mean, they obviously think that Microsoft has. I mean, there's the potential that Microsoft could say all our stuff is going to be exclusive now. But like you said, I'm sure there's been a golf match or two between someone at PlayStation and someone at the FTC. Yeah, this Wolong game looks interesting. It looks very, I don't know. It looks fairly similar to Sekiro in some ways. So if it's more of a full RPG experience, then it might be a little more interesting to me. All right, well,
especially with it being fully voiced, so, or close to fully voiced. They certainly made enough money off the first game to fully voice the second, easily.
I think you're talking about a different game. I was talking about Wolong.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking
Wolong
about
Fallen Dynasty.
You're still talking about Octopath.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
No, Octopath looks...
No, Wolong, I know nothing about that game. I have no idea what it is.
Looks cool.
Some kind of action RPG.
Dark fantasy. Souls-like.
Does it say Souls-like?
That's what it says on the user-defined tags, yeah.
I wonder if that's accurate, because, that would make it very much like Sekiro then. And I love Sekiro, but I don't want to play a Sekiro clone, you know what I mean?
That's fair.
If it offers something different in terms of the gameplay, that'd be pretty cool. All right, well, that's about all we have time for today. Got to wrap it up here, but thanks everyone for joining us. Slam that like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe. Lots of content coming out on our channel throughout the rest of this year and into next year. Obviously, we're going to keep up these weekly streams as well. Not sure if there will be one next week or not during that sort of holiday week between Christmas and New Year, but I believe Max and Sybe will be doing Maximum News, some kind of year-end recap over on Triple S Podcasts. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that's the game plan. On the 28th, we'll be doing something.
Okay. Subscribe to Triple S Podcast. You can find the link in the description below, as well as links to everything else that is ours on the internet. So, several channels, several other things. Follow us on Twitter, that kind of thing. And we will bid you farewell for now. Thanks for hanging out. See ya.